Hello, everybody. We're live here tonight with Ben Baker of AFCO. Ben, glad to have you on tonight. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Just waiting for my daughter to get done with volleyball.
Well, I was a little late there too. Had something going on with my daughter, but I appreciate you being on tonight. I hadn't had you on in a while. I know you've been on the road. What's your schedule been like here lately, Ben?
I spent all last week up in North Dakota for the Dakota Mod Tour. Then I went to Advantage RV Tour race and went to a couple of USMTS races and got back home Saturday sometime.
Yeah, another busy year. I know, we'll wait and see if anybody's got any questions for you. How's the parts world going and shortages and that kind of problems? Anything getting any better?
Yeah, I mean, there's, you hear about it different places. For the most part, we've not been too awful bad. We got a few little things here and there, but nothing that's like earth shattering. Really the biggest part shortage issue for a lot of people is just manpower. That's one of the biggest part shortages there is. But as far as raw materials, for us, there's not been too many issues with it.
But yeah, and it's the same way in everything. I mean, it's usually manpower. You might have the product or whatever, but you can't make it because you ain't got nobody there to make it. So
right.
We're still in that same boat right now. And I'll wait and see if anybody's got any questions for you here. But we'll just kind of go over a few things. Any new parts and stuff out there? Anything new going on with AFCO and your world out there that they're working on, or anything people need to know about?
There's actually we had a pretty big push this year trying to get some new products out by the end of the year. So there's a lot of things in the works with that right now. There's a lot of some new electronic stuff that we're working with on the long acre side. So there's a lot of new things coming for sure. We've gotten a few little things here and there that we've been developing. Shock pistons, shock valvings are ever changing. They're always evolving. So we got some new things there. We got some good new shock builders that we've been working with quite a bit to come up with some different ideas, and so there's certainly some new things there that's coming. Hopefully by the end of the year.
How's the tire problem? I know you used with out on the tour. Does it seem to be getting any better with the tire shortages across the country?
Well, I mean, for a lot of people that I've dealt with, I've not seen too many tire shortages. I hear about them here and there. Different series have to cancel races and things like that. I think one of the more minor issues that we've seen with tires are, they're so fresh that they're not getting quite the cure time that they used to get. So I've seen quite a bit of delamination where basically the tread balls off of it like a recap. I've seen quite a bit of that. But I mean, overall, I don't think it's been quite that bad. I mean, I don't know anybody who said, "Oh, well, I'm not going to go racing this weekend because I can't get tires." It seems like if you may have to hunt for them, you may not be able to go to your normal guy and get them. You might have to get some from this guy and some from that guy. But for the most part, most everybody I know that has been able to get them, they probably would buy more if there was more available. Just nature of people wanting to get everything that they can. But like I said, for the most part, it's not been too awful bad with the people I deal with.
I haven't even asked you this. Are you planning on going to the Street Stock Nationals this year? Is that in your?
When is that date? The dates on that?
August 23rd, 4th, 5th, right in there.
Yeah, I may. I know I've had it on my calendar in the past. I've been down to it once before. I would like to go down to it. I've got a couple things. I've got the first 2 weeks of August. I've got to go to Sturgis, South Dakota for the rally. There's a company up there that we work with that I'm gonna go up there and help them do installs on bikes and selling shocks up there with that. And then then we got to get ready for Super Nationals, which I leave. I think it's the first Saturday in September to go for Super Nationals. So it's kind of squeezed in a pretty tight area there.
Yeah, I'm planning on going to the Nationals. I just enjoy that event.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been down to it once before and had a really good time. If I go this year, I probably will try to get Brian Burris lives in Atlanta. I would probably try to get him to bring our Sprinter van over so that we've got a service vehicle there.
Yeah, that's the Brian I met there in North Carolina, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, I know we've talked a little bit about classes coming up next year. I know I've had so that man has to take a vacation to take a vacation. He's talking about you, I think.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's
I
not
know
been too bad past few years. I've traveled less the past few years than I used to.
Yeah. I know we've talked a little bit about upcoming classes, and everybody always wants to know if you're going to be there. And so that's why I'm starting early to make sure that we can find weekends that you're going to be available.
Sure.
And I know we got 2 or 3 good deals working. I'm looking at that micro sprint deal that we done down in Oklahoma. I've talked to Frank quite a bit about that, and looks like we're going to try to get that back on the books again, which is, it's kind of a new world for all, for me, and I know you deal with them some, but I think we're going to get back down to Oklahoma and do that deal. And,
yeah, that one we did a few years ago, that was a really good class. The class itself was good from the standpoint of, they ask a lot of questions, and that really helps with the flow of the class and kind of the direction as an instructor you want to go.
Yeah. And then, looking at IMCA stock car deal, I hadn't really put that out yet because I'm just in the early stages of it, but it looks like that's going to be a really big deal. And I have a feeling that's going to sell out in a few days, like some of our stuff in the past. And then, we'll do the Craig Lake model deal again, and just got to find the right weekends. I know, with PRI and Kate's show and a lot of stuff going on in January, February, it's hard for you to get committed. So I try to do it early. When does Speed Week start this year?
It keeps moving around, earlier and earlier, it seems like, but I think, like the first week and a half of January, you've got all that Arizona stuff. And then usually the last week of January, first 2 weeks of February are speed weeks. But I like going to that, but typically I don't necessarily plan on going to it. If it just happens to where I can get there without too much of a hassle, I'll go to it.
Right. And guys, anybody out there listening, we got quite a few on. If you got any questions for Ben right now, is the time to do it, because I know he's on the phone a lot. And I know like a lot of guys come through the classes have called you. Did you have, and it was a good question. I had a guy, he may have contacted you, that asked about water wetter, if you had to add water with it. I don't know. Did he ever get in touch with you? I can't remember his name.
I don't remember if he did or not, but I mean, in general, water wetters are good things. It's we've talked about before in the classes, it's no magic potion. You're not going to pour it in and drop 20, 30 degrees out of a motor. It's a good lubricant. It's a good anti-corrosion piece. It might drop a degree or two. But it does help a little bit of performance, but it's more of a nice additive to help with corrosion and lubrication more than anything. And it won't wreck bearings like antifreeze will.
And this is probably $1 million question. Of course, I'm looking at the bank temperature right now, and it's 104.
Yeah.
Then what's some of the real easy things guys can do to keep their cars cool this time of the year? Is there anything that you can just try to help them with? Maybe pumps, pulleys, what fan shrouds?
Well, one of the biggest things, if you ran the same radiator all year, probably put a new radiator in it. The fins are beat up, they're twisted, they're pounded on the inside where you can't really see it. You might look on the outside and the fins look straight, but I promise you inside, a lot of the fins are dirty and they're turned and plugged up with stuff. So, a new radiator by all means would be the best. If you don't want to put a new radiator in or feel like the radiator is good, getting that thing out of the car every week, soaking it in like a kiddie pool, let all that water get settled out of it. Drop it on a piece of carpet or something, trying to shake what little bit's left out of it, and then letting the thing dry. Don't put a wet radiator in the car and expect it to cool good, because it's just going to attract a bunch of dirt. But definitely clean, good radiator is a good one. There's places where you just have to run a shroud, so make sure your shroud's sealed good. Make sure you don't have any huge flat areas in the shroud. It's easy to build like a box shroud and just cut a hole out of the center of it. Problem is you end up with a lot of flat area, so the air can't move through the radiator and through the shroud. So you end up with like an air dam there. So you might only use 60% of the radiator instead of the whole radiator, because you got blocked off with a shroud. So if you're going to do a shroud, try to make something tapered and not just a big square box. Fans, if you've got some of the different plastic and bolt-on style fans, definitely you may have to add blades to it. That race fan's a nice fan for that, where you can add and take away blades as you need to. I like that Gorsuch fan, seems to cool really good. It's a huge horsepower robber, but it does seem to cool very, very good. So just be aware of that. If you're places where you just don't need horsepower and don't need acceleration, that fan definitely will cool a motor off. That's probably the biggest things. By all means, get a water pressure gauge in the car. Make sure you got water pressure. If you got a hole in a radiator or anything like that, that pressure gauge is going to tell you right now, so you don't burn the motor down. And then if you suspect that your gauge says you're running hot, but you don't feel like you're running hot, you're not pushing water or anything like that, it's always good just to double check those gauges. Some of the cheaper mechanical style gauges, sometimes they're just bad. They don't give you a good reading.
Yeah, that's good stuff there. My battery's going a little low here, so if anybody's got something real quick, we'll jump on here with Ben. I know he's got to go pick his daughter up or something at school, so I just kind of want to get you back on and see how Parts World was and what you've been up to and where you're headed. And like I said, we'll get more into class details over the next, I'll probably know more. I like to know about mid-August to late August and dates and stuff. Yeah. That way all you guys can plan. And it looks like racing's still strong. I mean, I know.
Yeah.
Still booming.
Yeah. I mean, those tracks I went to last week, it was kind of a special tour, but, car counts was really good. Fans were really good in the stands. Everywhere we went, we're packed. So it was good to see that, really there's still just as much racing out there now as there was last year. I went to 3 different sanctioning bodies events, and they were all just as strong as each other. So,
yeah, it's, in Arkansas, it's actually fell off quite a bit, but I know the Midwest and down south is still going strong. But
yeah, there's pockets I know that's kind of fallen off. I mean, if you look at sales reports and look at where the locations are, you can find those pockets that racing's kind of fallen off a little bit, but I think overall it's still pretty good.
Ben, there's a question there if you want to jump on it pretty quick while I still got a little battery life here.
What do you like as far as pulley reduction and gooseneck reducer? As far as pulley reduction goes, the biggest thing is looking at your RPM that you run the most. Water pump much over 6,000 is going to start having some cavitation issues. So if you're turning a motor 9,000 RPMs, you're going to have to reduce it by a third to get it down to where you're not cavitating the water pump. So that's the biggest thing on the pulley sizes, is just looking at your overall RPM and trying to keep that around that 5,000 RPM neighborhood is probably the most efficient without cavitating it. As far as the gooseneck reducers goes, if you're talking the top or bottom hoses, the bottom hose is the best place to run like a restrictor. So take your thermostat housing, take your thermostat, your washer, stuff like that out of the top of the motor, and then run a reducer in the bottom radiator hose. And what that does is it allows for a lot more laminar flow throughout the whole engine, and it gets the hot water out of the engine and into the radiator a lot more efficiently, so that it will cool better that way.